Om Shanti. Hope you all doing fine. So now the whole world is seeing wave after wave of COVID-19. Only God knows how long it's going to take for it to end completely. Nonetheless, there is no need to fear COVID-19 anymore if you know the actual reason for it to exist in the first place. We are going to face many more dangerous than COVID-19 in the upcoming future, because they all come to help us settle our post-karmic account as soon as possible. If we can embrace them silently, then your karmic account will be settled pretty soon. But we don't know how to embrace these things peacefully, because the main reason you suffer is not COVID-19. It is your attachment to this body and your bodily relatives and all the things you believe that belongs to you. You don't want to leave them. That is the main reason that you suffer, and God comes here to detach yourself from the rest of the world, including your body, because this is not something you are with from the beginning. You were into another body before taking this body, and you were into another body before taking that body. So we are in this birth and death cycle for the past 5,000 years. In the beginning, for the first 2,500 years, this world was heaven, because that's how God's creation would be, right? He wouldn't create the world filled with diseases and all sorts of sickness, mentally and physically, as we see today. That's not the kind of world God created in the first place. It was heaven, which was 100% perfect. And it was filled with wealth. People were ever healthy, ever blissful and peaceful, and they were called deities, and we worship them in Hindu temples even today. And these deities, they entered this birth and death cycle, and after the completion of first 2,500 years, they became ordinary humans, and the world, which was originally heaven, turns to hell. Why? Because while they were in heaven, they were soul conscious. And that is the reason they did not have these vices like lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego, which are the root cause for all sorts of suffering that we see today in this present world. So they were soul conscious. They didn't consider themselves to be this body. That is, they were not body conscious. Because for these vices to exist, you need to be body conscious. But when this world becomes hell, we become body conscious and start becoming slaves for the sensual pleasures, thereby those 5 vices, and start committing sin after sins, and thereby we are facing punishment after punishment in the form of diseases, poverty, natural calamities, and so on. So this COVID-19 is just one way of punishing us for our past sins. We did sins, so we need to pay for it. There's no other way out. But just the very fact that we are responsible for what we are experiencing now itself will give you peace. Because if you blame somebody else in your family for passing over this infection, that's not going to give you peace. If you want to blame some other country for creating those COVID-19 virus, that's not going to give you peace. Only when you realize that it is your karma that makes you contract that disease, that you will be peaceful. They may be just an instrument, but it is your past karma that brings you these sufferings. You need to remember this all the time, not only with COVID-19, with all sorts of problems that you face day to day. If you are suffering from some disease like typhoid or diarrhea, whatever it is, so whenever you reach a point when you feel somewhat okay, then that's the time you decide to rush to the hospital, right? Similarly, with all the problems that we face daily, it doesn't come continuously non-stop. There will be a problem for some time, then there will be a long gap where there is absolutely no problem. Then again, all of a sudden, you will be encountering some problem. So what you need to do is to use that long gap where there is no problem to make sure that you are ready to face the upcoming problem, because undoubtedly you will encounter problem after problem in the future. Likewise, with COVID-19, we face the first wave, second wave, and possibly third wave in India, but in other countries they have already faced third and fourth waves. So it is mainly due to our karma, because the world is going to end. God comes in the last 100 years to give this knowledge about this world cycle of 5,000 years called Kalpa, and he says the world is going to end, which means the world which is in Kali Yuga era now is going to be transformed into Satyuga, which is heaven. Because this world itself was heaven, this world is hell, and yet will be heaven again. So for this hell to be transformed to heaven, there should be a world destruction. And we souls must leave this body and enter the soul world from where it originally came from before taking birth in heaven. So this is the soul world from where we enter the earth and from where we leave from the earth. So this is our home, sweet home, not only for the souls, but also for the Father of all souls, God, the Supreme Soul, who is called God Shiva by Hindus, Allah by Muslims, Heavenly Godfather by Christians. God is just one. He doesn't enter this birth and death cycle like us. That is why we couldn't see him. But he has to come in the end, because only he has this knowledge. So he enters an old man's body and gives this knowledge called Murli, that is available in all Raj Yoga meditation centers, absolutely free of cost, because it's given directly by God himself. So obviously he wouldn't charge his children fees for the knowledge to become pure, thereby become eligible to enter heaven. So God comes in the end basically to purify all the impure souls. Everybody in this planet is impure now. So only God can make us pure through this knowledge. He gives this knowledge because it is us who committed sins. So it is our responsibility to wash away these sins using the knowledge given by God. How do we do that? It's pretty simple. All we need to do is to remember God. as a point of light, because that's how God is. He is also a soul just like us. We souls reside in between the eyebrows like a tiny star, which is why Hindus have this habit of wearing religious symbols in between the eyebrows. So, the place where God resides is a golden red colored light world. It is called Parandam or Parlok. So, we need to remember God as a shining star in the golden red colored sky. We need to remember Him lovingly as our Father. We need to spend as much time as possible remembering our Father, because we have been accumulating sins for the past 2500 years. Because in heaven we didn't commit any sin, only in hell we have been committing sins. So now God gives this knowledge in the last 100 years, and 85 years have already been passed. So we have very little time. World may end anytime soon, and even before that our life may end anytime soon. So we should consider this second to be our last second. So what should we do? We need to immerse ourselves in the remembrance of God as much as possible, so that our soul gets pure as much as God. It all depends on the effort you put in remembrance of God. That is the only thing God expects us to do. He doesn't give us any hard work. We need not visit any religious places, we need not fast, we need not walk for long, we need not walk on fire, we need not even open our mouth to utter something. All we need to do is to remember God as much as possible and to listen to the Murli daily. So God speaks to us through an old man's body. He names him Brahma. So that Murli is available in all Raja Yoga meditation centers, and also it is available online in various websites and YouTube. So let me link them in the description below this video. So please have a look at it and make use of it. And we need to listen to it daily, and we need to keep on repeating that to ourselves. By doing so, what happens is we become slowly soul conscious, because it is the body consciousness that gives us all sorts of suffering, both physically and mentally and emotionally, because we are not ready to separate from our relatives, from our spouse, from our children or parents. That is the number one reason we suffer a lot during corona infection. If you are prepared for the exam, you don't have to fear exam, right? Corona is just an exam for us. Why? To prove to God that I love you more than anybody in this world. If you love only God more than anybody in this world, then you will be more than happy to go to God, right? But it is because you love somebody else or something else more than God, you are not ready to leave them and go to God. So that's the test paper. If you are ready to face the test paper, you will be very happy when you are informed that you are infected with coronavirus or any chronic illness that may possibly lead to death. So after getting this knowledge and becoming soul conscious gradually, we are no longer worried about death, but still we are worried about one thing. What is that? Whether we are ready to enter heaven 100% pure, whether we have put that much effort to forget everything in this world, because everything in this world is going to create vicious thoughts in you. So that is the reason God asks you not to see anything, not to listen to anything in this old world, because they will just tempt you towards these vices. Because these vices is the main reason that turns heaven into hell. But it is God's duty to turn hell into heaven, but it is your duty to become eligible to enter heaven by becoming pure through remembrance of God. You may be familiar with Hindu scripture that says a king called Parikshit was cursed by a monk that he would die within a week. So he has just 7 days to live. So that's when Parikshit decides to seek some guru to teach him the ways to attain liberation and liberation in life, mukti and jivan mukti. So he doesn't want to waste a single day. Who is that Parikshit? It is us. Because the world is nearing its end. So we shouldn't waste a single day. We should fill our mind only with the remembrance of God and His knowledge all the time. Of course, we need to do the daily routines. That's something we will be doing physically, but mentally we should be busy with the remembrance of God and the remembrance of the knowledge of God. Because all we do is to become eligible to enter heaven, to get the highest status in heaven possible. The highest status possible is that of Sri Narayan. That is why he is called Vaikunt Vasa, which means the resident of Vaikunt or heaven. You can become that. All you need to do is to put effort to remember God as much as possible, no matter what you do. So remember God when you walk, remember God when you eat, when you bathe. So whatever you do, just make sure your mind is connected only to God and nothing else. That's possible. Initially it may be difficult for you to concentrate, but if you are determined, it is very much possible, and as a result you will feel yourself ever blissful even in this Kali Yuga, because your mind is become equivalent to that of Satyug, because in Satyug they would be soul conscious, which is why they were happy all the time, because the soul itself is the embodiment of blissfulness and peacefulness. Nonetheless, in heaven we'll be surrounded with everything that gives us happiness. Humans, they'll be filled with the divine qualities, they'll be beautiful, and the animals and birds, they'll be pleasing us all the time. The whole world looks as if it was created just to please us. That is why God creates heaven for us, His beloved children. Whether or not we are really beloved to Him depends on the effort you put in remembering God lovingly all the time. So God has already given 2 chances, especially for Indians. That is 2 waves of Corona. It is just a warning. But luckily we have escaped. But maybe some of you may have lost your dear ones in the last 2 waves, especially the second wave, which was very deadly. But people, the scientists, they have predicted that the third wave is going to be very deadly, the Delta Plus. So what? Make use of this chance, because now it's not as severe as it was before. So now use this chance to develop soul conscious. Don't waste any more time. Develop soul conscious, because it is if someone is sentenced to death penalty for some severe criminal offense, so the wise thing that he could do is to make himself ready to face the death, because there is no other way. Likewise, the world has to end. There is no other way. We need to leave this body. Whether or not you are leaving this body as per your wish, because if you are soul conscious, if you want to go to the supreme abode, the resident of souls or the soul world, will be leaving instantly. So we leave this body as per our wish. But if you don't pay attention to God's knowledge or His words, you keep on repeating sin after sin, then you will be developing more and more body consciousness. So when the time arrives for you to leave this body, it's going to be very painful for you. So even before you leave this body, it's going to be very painful. Even after leaving this body, it's going to be painful.